Here's something I want you to think about for a moment. Every single second of every single day, your heart beats roughly 100,000 times per day, and every single beat sends a wave of pressurized blood through your arteries, out to your organs, your muscles, your brain. Now here's the question nobody asks. What happens to that pressure wave when it hits your arteries? In a young, healthy body, because the answer is beautiful. Young arteries are elastic, flexible. When the pressure wave arrives, they expand slightly, absorbing the force, buffering the pressure, smoothing the flow of blood. Think of it like a rubber hose, flexible enough to absorb the surge without passing the full force downstream. Now imagine that same hose, but stiff, rigid, unable to flex. When the pressure wave arrives, it doesn't get absorbed. It passes straight through, full force, into the smaller, more delicate blood vessels downstream, into the capillaries of your kidneys, into the tiny arterioles of your heart muscle, and most dangerously of all, into the extraordinarily fragile microvascular network of your brain. That is arterial stiffness. And after 50, it is happening in virtually every adult on the planet, silently, invisibly, without a single symptom. But here's what most people, and most doctors, don't fully appreciate. Arterial stiffness is not primarily a heart problem. Yes, it increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. But the organ most consistently damaged by arterial stiffness is your brain. Stanford researchers found that arterial stiffness is one of the strongest independent predictors of cognitive decline after 50. Stronger, in some studies, than cholesterol, blood pressure, or even family history of dementia. Every heartbeat, every day. If your arteries are stiff, your brain is taking damage, and today we're going to talk about what you can do about it. Starting with a $1 daily compound that the research says can measurably reverse arterial stiffening in as little as 4 weeks. Stay with me. Let's get specific about what arterial stiffness actually is at the biological level. Your arteries are not passive pipes. They are dynamic tissues composed of smooth muscle cells, elastic fibers, collagen, and a delicate inner lining of endothelial cells. The interplay between these components gives arteries their characteristic flexibility, and the ability to expand under pressure and recoil during diastole. The most critical structural component for flexibility is elastin. Elastin is one of the most durable proteins in the human body. With a half-life of approximately 70 years, you are largely running on the elastin you were born with. Your body produces most arterial elastin during fetal development and childhood, and has very limited capacity to synthesize new elastin in adult life. As you age, elastin fibers accumulate damage. Cross-linking reactions driven by oxidative stress and sugar metabolism progressively stiffen and fragment these fibers. The elastic recoil degrades. Simultaneously, collagen, which is stiffer, accumulates as a repair response, further increasing arterial stiffness. This process accelerates after 50. First, oxidative stress increases as mitochondrial function declines and antioxidant defenses weaken with age. Second, advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, accumulate. These are toxic compounds formed when sugar molecules react with proteins. Age accumulation creates the rigid, inflexible arterial structure, characteristic of aged vasculature after decades of normal blood sugar fluctuations. Third, endothelial dysfunction develops. These cells produce nitric oxide, a molecule that causes smooth muscle cells to relax and maintain flexibility. After 50, nitric oxide production declines. Arteries become less able to dilate in response to blood flow, and resting stiffness increases. Fourth, chronic inflammation directly damages endothelial cells and promotes fibrosis, accelerating the cross-linking reactions that stiffen elastin. Everything connects. Inflammaging feeds arterial stiffening. Arterial stiffening feeds brain damage. Brain damage feeds cognitive decline. Now let's talk about the brain damage mechanism specifically, because this is the part that most cardiovascular discussions miss entirely. Your brain is the most blood flow dependent organ in your body. It represents approximately 2% of your body weight, but it receives approximately 20% of your total cardiac output. Every minute, roughly 1 liter of blood flows through your brain, delivering oxygen, glucose, and the molecular building blocks that every neural process depends on. The blood vessels that serve the brain are extraordinarily delicate. The capillaries of the cerebral microvasculature are some of the finest blood vessels in the body, with walls only 1 cell thick. They are designed to operate under low, steady pressure. The gentle, buffered flow that flexible young arteries deliver. When arteries stiffen, this changes completely. The pressure waves that stiffened arteries can no longer absorb are transmitted directly into the cerebral microvasculature. These vessels, designed for a gentle, buffered flow, are subjected to repeated high-pressure impacts with every heartbeat. Over time, this causes microvascular damage, small tears, inflammatory responses, thickening of vessel walls, and ultimately reduction in cerebral blood flow. A landmark study in neurology found that higher arterial stiffness was associated with significantly faster rates of white matter lesion accumulation. White matter lesions are directly associated with cognitive decline, processing speed reduction, and increased dementia risk. A separate study found that arterial stiffness measured in midlife was a significant predictor of cognitive performance 10 years later. The relationship was independent of blood pressure, meaning arterial stiffness has cognitive consequences beyond what blood pressure measurements can capture. This is critical. Standard blood pressure measurements do not directly measure arterial stiffness. You can have normal blood pressure and significantly stiff arteries. Pulse wave velocity, the gold standard measurement, is rarely measured in routine clinical practice. Most people have no idea. Research found that cerebral blood flow pulsatility directly drives glymphatic fluid movement. Pressure waves of arterial blood flow pump cerebrospinal fluid, driving the waste clearance that removes amyloid beta and tau proteins from brain tissue during sleep. When arteries stiffen, the character of pulsatility changes. The pressure waves become more intense but less rhythmically organized. Stiff arteries don't just damage brain tissue through pressure, they impair the very mechanism your brain uses to clean itself. Now let's talk about what the research supports for reversing arterial stiffness naturally. First, let me be clear about the word reversing. Can you actually reverse arterial stiffness? Can you restore the elasticity that decades of aging and oxidative damage have degraded? The answer from the research is partially yes, and significantly more than most people assume is possible. You cannot regenerate destroyed elastin fibers, but you can address the functional components of arterial stiffness, endothelial nitric oxide production, and smooth muscle tone. The research is consistent on this point across multiple independent studies. The compound with the strongest research backing is nattokinase combined with nitric oxide precursors, but let me start with the single most accessible and most research-supported intervention, dietary nitrate, specifically from beetroot. Beetroot extract is a rich source of inorganic nitrate. Bacteria in your mouth convert it to nitrite, which becomes nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide causes arterial smooth muscle cells to relax and arteries to dilate, improving flexibility significantly within just 3 hours of consumption. A randomized controlled trial in adults over 55 found that daily beetroot extract produced a significant reduction in pulse wave velocity. The first additional compound is nattokinase, an enzyme from natto. It breaks down fibrin, a protein that accumulates in arterial walls with age. Researchers found reductions in arterial stiffness comparable to some medications, using this natural enzyme supplement costing under $1 per day. The second compound is vitamin K2-MK7. It activates matrix GLA protein, the primary inhibitor of arterial calcification. A 3-year study found that vitamin K2s essentially arrested arterial stiffness progression compared to a placebo group, a truly significant result. Together, beetroot extract, nattokinase, and vitamin K2 address the 3 primary modifiable mechanisms of arterial stiffening. Total cost, about $2 daily. Let me give you the complete protocol, with specific doses, timing, and practical implementation guidance. Morning, taken together with breakfast. Beetroot extract, standardized to 300 to 400 milligrams of dietary nitrate. Nattokinase at 2000 FU. Fibrinolytic units, the standard research dose. Vitamin K2, MK7 at 100 to 200 micrograms. All 3 taken with your morning meal. One important note about nattokinase timing. Nattokinase has mild blood-thinning properties. If you are taking anticoagulant medications, discuss nattokinase supplementation with your doctor before starting. The interaction is not dangerous for most people, but it is worth flagging with your physician, particularly if you are on therapeutic anticoagulation. One important note about vitamin K2. If you are taking warfarin specifically, vitamin K2 can interact with warfarin's mechanism of action. For everyone not on warfarin, vitamin K2 MK7 has an excellent safety profile with no known significant interactions at supplemental doses. The lifestyle factors that most powerfully support arterial flexibility are ones you're already addressing through this series. Exercise, specifically aerobic exercise, is the most potent known stimulus for endothelial nitric oxide production. Your daily 20 to 30 minute walk is actively stimulating the endothelial cells in your arterial walls to produce nitric oxide. Dietary sugar reduction. Advanced glycation end products, AGEs, are formed when sugar reacts with proteins in your arterial walls. Reducing dietary sugar intake directly reduces age formation. Even modest reductions produce measurable reductions in circulating age levels within weeks. Chronic inflammation is a major driver of arterial stiffening. Omega-3s, resveratrol, and quercetin all have documented effects on arterial health. During deep sleep, arterial wall repair processes are most active. Consistent, adequate slow-wave sleep is one of the most important long-term supports. Now, let me give you the updated master protocol, integrating all 9 videos. Morning with breakfast starts with lion's mane and turmeric, black pepper, collagen, inulin in coffee, magnesium L-threonate 2 capsules, CoQ10, ubiquinol 200 to 300 milligrams, resveratrol 250 milligrams, omega-3 2 grams, ashwagandha KSM 66 300 milligrams, zinc picolinate 15 to 30 milligrams, vitamin D3 2000 to 5000 or IU, beetroot extract 300 to 400 milligrams, natokinase 2000 FU, vitamin K2 MK7 100 to 200 micrograms, mid-morning NAC 600 milligrams and quercetin, afternoon 20 to 30 minute walk, with dinner silymarin 200 to 400 milligrams, second dose omega-3 and ashwagandha, pre-bed magnesium glycinate 300 milligrams, L-theanine 200 milligrams, apigenin 50 milligrams. Total daily supplement cost 5 Dorzor to 7 Dorzors. Total active time under 5 minutes. Research support, peer-reviewed evidence for every single component. 9 videos, 9 biological mechanisms, 1 integrated system. Let me show you something that I find genuinely remarkable about the system we've built together across this series. Every single mechanism we've covered feeds back into every other mechanism. It's not a linear chain, it's a web. And the web becomes more resilient as more connections are established. Arterial stiffness impairs glymphatic function, which we address through the sleep protocol. Improved glymphatic function reduces amyloid beta accumulation, which reduces neuroinflammation. Reduced neuroinflammation improves endothelial function, which reduces arterial stiffness. Better arterial flexibility improves cerebral blood flow, which supports BDNF delivery to brain tissue. Higher BDNF supports synaptic density, which magnesium L-threonate also supports through NMDA receptor function. Better synaptic density improves cognitive engagement, which supports testosterone production. Higher testosterone supports BDNF production, completing the circle. And threading through all of it, gut health driving BDNF and reducing neuroinflammation, liver health reducing the toxic burden, CoQ10 powering the mitochondria that every cell in every system depends on, sleep consolidating the gains that every daytime intervention initiates. This is a living, breathing biological system, and you're now actively managing it with the best available science as your guide. Most people looking for brain health are looking for one thing, one magic answer, one supplement that will solve everything, and they are constantly disappointed because one thing is never enough. The biology is too complex. The mechanisms are too interconnected. What you have built is different. It is not one thing. It is a system, and systems produce durable compounding results. The research supports addressing multiple mechanisms simultaneously, because that's how the biology actually works. The aging brain is not failing because of one thing. It is failing because of many things, all reinforcing each other. And the restoration of cognitive health requires addressing those things together. You are now doing that. Here is your final action step for this week specifically. Add beetroot extract, natokinase, and vitamin K2 MK7 to your protocol. If budget is a constraint, prioritize beetroot extract first. It addresses nitric oxide and endothelial function at the lowest cost. Consistency is the variable that separates people who see results. Biology responds to what you actually do. Every day. Coming up next week, we are going into one of the most overlooked topics, the impact of loneliness on neurological aging. Research has established that social isolation is as damaging to long-term health as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Subscribe now, turn on notifications. Share this video with someone who needs it. Stay sharp, stay flexible, stay vital.